Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. Today's episode is sponsored by Anthony Team Realty.
Good evening, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's Mocktails and Masterpieces. We've got a great program for you. Two very special guests are joining me. We've got Rob Dixon coming up in a little bit, and we've got the incredible Dan Tepfer with me right now. We're going to be exploring or revisiting, I should say, two movements from James Aikman's Peacemakers, which was premiered in April 2016. These are two movements where the orchestra actually had no performance or no contribution whatsoever. This is just the work of Dan Tepfer and Rob Dixon here, and it was really remarkable to see their contribution, their musical contribution in this powerful piece. So, Dan, it's great to have you with us on this broadcast tonight. I hope things have been going well for you the past few months. Maybe you can tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating time. As soon as the quarantine hit, I think something happens to me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. When I feel very confined, I feel limited in my options, I immediately just asking myself what I can do given those parameters, and what's kind of like the maximum amount of freedom that I can have within those parameters. And the thing that came up for me immediately was to move forward on this project I've been meaning to do seriously for a while, that I call Bach Upside Down. And it's a project where I play pieces by Bach, and then I've written this computer program that'll immediately take what I just played with the same phrasing and all of that, and perform a chromatic inversion of it, which is like turning it upside down, and play it back. And with Bach, it just works unbelievably well. It like gives you this very fresh feeling for the pieces, and even though it's the same information. So I posted the first half of the Goldberg variations that way, just one every day or one every couple of days. And then what happened was a presenter in Europe put together a virtual festival. And he was kind of serious about it. You know, they did their publicity properly. They had a really nice roster of people that they invited. And he asked me to do a live stream for them. And I'd never done that before. And I'm a very computer-oriented person. I've been programming since I was a kid. And I produced this project a year ago called Natural Machines, where I've written all these computer programs that improvise with me in real time. So actually it was very natural for me to move into live streaming, even though I'd never done it before. And that's really been kind of my major focus ever since. I did a live stream of the Goldberg variations for the American Pianist Association and for other presenters. And I've been doing my own live stream concerts every Monday at 2. And that's been an incredibly fascinating journey, developing this online audience and really connecting with them in real time. It's a whole new world right now.
Well, you mentioned that you actually have a broadcast tomorrow, and you're joining us from Brooklyn, but you're not even in your own apartment right now. Where are you?
Yeah, that's right. So I've been doing these free streams on Mondays at 2 p.m. Just on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. But I immediately, shall we say, like a month into the pandemic, I was thinking that we have to find a way to make this sustainable, because this might last for a long time. So I've also been doing ticketed live stream concerts, and those have been really amazing because people have been very solid in their support. This will be my fourth one that I produced myself, and that's tomorrow. I'm doing the program I call Inventions Reinventions, where I play the inventions by Bach. And then, since he only wrote 15 inventions with their 24 possible keys, I improvise inventions for the missing 9 keys. And so, yeah, that's at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Actually, if anyone's interested, you can get tickets at dantepfer.com/tix, T-I-X. And right now, my piano is being tuned for that concert, because it's very important for Bach that your piano be in absolutely immaculate tune. And so I'm at my neighbor's apartment right now, which has been empty during the whole pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about Natural Machines. I mean, first of all, Dan, anytime that I read your biography again, I mean, I get low self-esteem. It's hard not. I mean, you're a trained astrophysicist. You taught cleaning, computer programming. You're playing Bach. You're this incredible jazz pianist. But you came up with something really very, very beautiful. I mean, on top of all of the beauty that you created in your career, but Natural Machines, I mean, since we're going to be talking about the JFK movement, which is piano solo, multimedia, filmic oratorio is what James calls Peacemakers. So you're very experienced with multimedia and the presentation of art. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what Natural Machines is in case anybody wants to check it out on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I do want to correct the record. I'm definitely neither great nor an astrophysicist. I have a bachelor's in astrophysics. That's all.
Only a bachelor's. Oh, sure. Only a bachelor's. All right.
But yeah, I mean, I thought the multimedia element of this piece was so inspiring. I remember being really awed by the video work. It was beautifully done, and indeed, as you point out, I have a project, Natural Machines, that's also multimedia. It's multimedia in a different way because I would say that the core of who I am as a musician is as an improviser. Improvisation is really essential to me in what I do in music, but honestly also in life. It's just kind of who I am as a person. I just naturally kind of a spontaneous person, and I enjoy bringing that to the music. And so for Natural Machines, everything is real time. There's nothing pre-recorded or pre-planned. The only thing that's pre-planned is the way that things work. So it's like instead of writing pieces, I write these algorithms that determine the rules and the kind of approach that the computer's going to take and process pieces, you could call them. And indeed, there's a musical element where the computer responds in real time to what I improvise at the piano. But there's also a visual element where I've written these programs that create a real-time visualization of the music as it's happening. But I think in both cases, there's a willingness to bring together the senses. I think there's a danger that can happen with multimedia pieces where the visuals, where the music kind of takes a back seat to the visuals. It can start to feel a bit like film music or something that you don't really pay attention to, and your attention is taken up by the visuals. And that's one very important thing for me in Natural Machines, is that what you see on screen is a direct representation of the music. And so I think, and people have told me that this is the case, I think it really reinforces the experience of the music rather than distracting from it. And I remember having a similar experience with JFK, I mean, with the Peacemakers, even though it's obviously a very different approach. The integration of the music and the visuals seemed really successful to me.
I agree with that sentiment completely, and I encourage anybody who is just now coming to discover Natural Machines to check out the blogs and the interviews that you've done on it. I think you described it perfectly, and I agree. Having watched a lot of it here recently, it is just beautiful how it's integrated, and it is, again, so natural. Not to run off the title itself, but there's a real beauty in seeing this thing evolve. As your composition and the pieces that you play.
Yeah, I should probably mention it's called Natural Machines because the whole idea behind it is that the music that I love, like just to take the obvious example, the music of Bach, is kind of equal parts rules and logical structure and heart and intuition. It's really the meeting of nature and of the mechanical, the natural and the mechanical. And I'm really glad that you felt the naturalness of it, because that's something I've worked hard to make present in this mechanical environment.
It's really, really, really beautiful. So we're here with Dan Tepfer, and we're setting up now the JFK movement from James Aikman's Peacemakers. And this is such a unique movement because it's just you performing in this. As we've discussed on the numerous broadcasts we've had, Peacemakers, this has been the most ambitious project the Chamber Orchestra has ever undertaken, just with the sheer amount of forces on stage. Again, the Indianapolis Children's Choir, Indianapolis Arts Chorale, a sitar player, piano, saxophone, mezzo-soprano. There are so many collaborators involved in this project, but here's a movement with just you alone. Maybe you could set this movement up for us. Maybe perhaps just what James wrote, or if there were elements of personal freedom, improvisation embedded in there. It was just you on the stage. Tell us about the JFK movement.
It's been a while, but if I remember correctly, it's all fully written out, and it's written out in a distinctive style, and I think if I remember correctly, that movement is all written out, but there's a lot of liberty that can be taken with phrasing because it's kind of out of time. And so that was where the improvisational and where the degrees of freedom resided was in the pacing of it. But there was another movement, right, that I did with Rob, and that one was very improvisational. So I think, if I remember correctly, this one was fully written out. One thing I might share is that I remember that this is the solo movement. I remember that I forget if it was at the performance or at one of the rehearsals, but suddenly a draft came in, and it was like a serious draft that would not die down. And my music, which is just a bunch of pieces of paper taped together on the music stand, kept actually like slowly falling towards me. And so here I am playing this piece that has a lot of intervallic shifts, like your hands are kind of having to move around a lot, and I have to reach to push the music back up. And it got so bad that the stagehand or the forget what his position was, but this very kind man actually came on stage and pushed the music back up for me. One of the hazards of live performance.
I see that a lot in outdoor concerts with orchestra. Trumpet player who holds the music up with his foot while he's trying to play at the same time.
You expect that when you're outdoors, but you don't expect that in a concert hall.
No, if it was during the concert, no one would have known. I certainly didn't notice, but we were talking about these things that, from a performer's standpoint that happen in the concert that you just try to roll with and try to get through here. Dan, it's been great visiting with you, and I just wish you all the continued success. You're doing brilliant work, and I love seeing all of these creative ways that you combine, your many-faceted skill set with music in such a beautiful and artistic way. It really is great to see you. We're going to move now to the JFK movement of James Aikman's Peacemakers with Dan Tepfer.
Thank you so much.
Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote, "On November 23, 1963, my uncle, President John F. Kennedy, went to Dallas, intending to condemn the notion that peace is a sign of weakness. He meant to argue that the best way to demonstrate America's strength was not by using weapons and threats, but by being a nation that practices what it preaches about equal rights and social justice." From the President's own speech at Amherst, "I look forward to an America which commands respect not only for its strength, but for its civilization as well. And I look forward to a world which will be safe for democracy and diversity."
What kind of a peace do we seek? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace, the kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living, the kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope and build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time. I realize the pursuit of peace is not as dramatic as the pursuit of war, and frequently the words of the pursuers fall on deaf ears, but we have no more urgent task. First, examine our attitude towards peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it is unreal. But that is a dangerous, defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that mankind is doomed, that we are gripped by forces we cannot control. We need not accept that view. Our problems are man-made, therefore they can be solved by man. No problem of human destiny is beyond human beings. Man's reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable, and we believe they can do it again. Let us focus on a more practical, more attainable peace, based not on a sudden revolution in human nature, but on a gradual evolution in human institutions, on a series of concrete actions and effective agreements which are in the interests of all concerned. There is no single simple key to this peace, no grand or magic formula to be adopted by one or two powers. Genuine peace must be the product of many nations. The sum of many acts. It must be dynamic, not static, changing to meet the challenge of each new generation. For peace is a process, a way of solving problems. With such a peace, there will still be quarrels and conflicting interests, as there are within families and nations. World peace, like community peace, does not require that each man love his neighbor. It requires only that they live together in mutual tolerance, submitting their disputes to a just and peaceful settlement. And history teaches us that enmities between nations, as between individuals, do not last forever. However fixed our likes and dislikes may seem, the tide of time and events will often bring surprising changes in the relations between nations and neighbors. So let us persevere. Peace need not be impractical, and war need not be inevitable. By defining our goal more clearly, by making it seem more manageable and less remote, we can help all people to see it, to draw hope from it, and to move irresistibly towards it.
I'm joined now by a dear friend of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, Rob Dixon. Rob, great to see you here virtually. How have you been?
Oh, great. How you doing, Matthew? I'm doing pretty well considering, that we're all, in this weird pandemic.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
I appreciate that you took the time to join us tonight. I was really happy to hear that you've actually been playing. This is something that all of us musicians are, talking to each other about, how we're going to get back in front of audiences live, and some outdoor curbside concerts that very small groups of musicians are putting together. But you're traveling. You always travel, in your career, but now you're playing, which is kind of heartening to hear.
Yes, I've been probably playing for about a month now, where places, in Ohio, or like Cincinnati and Columbus, and a little bit in Kentucky, but in some rural areas in Indiana since about the beginning of July. But you really kind of get a really good feel of where people are politically, and if they're open or not, or if they're closed, or what sensibilities they're taking towards dealing with the pandemic. But if there's a gig someplace, I'll go to it. I love music that much, so.
Well, that's very obvious. I mean, what have you been doing? These months here now. You always, you're so knowledgeable, not only about your art form and performing, and you're passionate about that, but you're so knowledgeable about the business side of music as well. We were chatting, off camera here. The work that you've done for years with the Jazz Foundation and Indie Jazz Fest. Writing grants, for example. And being an advocate for your music and for the collaborations that you have so much of a part of here, not only in Indianapolis, but regionally and nationally. What have you been up to the last couple months here when you can't be in front of a live audience that, might, project itself into the future here?
Yeah, I think for the last few months, been kind of working for the Jazz Foundation, trying to plan for Indie Jazz Fest. I work as artistic director, and we've done a virtual, what we call block party, where we've had 7 bands perform, and WFYI came out and filmed it. We organized the Musicians Relief Fund, and that was interesting. And and I know off camera we talked about how you get involved in the administrative side when you do music. And it's like, I think I really got interested when I first was in New York. I moved to New York in 97, late 96, early 97. And I went out on the road with Illinois Jacquette. And my first tour was Europe. But I was really fascinated by the promoter that brought us over there, because her business, to the way she was organizing the festivals that we played, to the radio broadcasts, to just all the elements and the details that went into administrating a music organization or a music performance. So I think that's what really got me interested in being on that side of the business as well. So it's actually, and then from there, I've just, like I said, I've just learned, like, School of Hard Knocks, and trying things and not working, or applying for a grant and completely messing up, and then, like, learning from that. So much, and then things that we have to do when we have positions like artistic director or a conductor, the politics that you have to do on the other side of music, so becoming better at that.
There are professional grant writers, but it's very hard for somebody to step in and write passionately about a commission they're trying to
Right.
they're trying to support. And I think that when you come from the position of really believing in what you do and the merit of it, why it should be funded, I mean, I think that does resonate with people. So it's great that we have advocates for the arts like you, who are so knowledgeable, but then can stand out on stage, and then just deliver an incredible performance. I think that it's great that you're versed in all of this. We were talking about a project that we're hopeful for here. Maybe you can talk about that. It was really very interesting when we sat down for lunch right before the pandemic hit, and I think this is a really fabulous idea that I would love to see work itself out, hopefully in the near future.
Yes. So it's a project that we talked about doing a while back, maybe 6 months ago. There's a great hip hop band in town called Native Son, and their music, they sample a lot of orchestral instruments playing. And I thought it would be with my relationship with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, I was like, wouldn't it be great to marry these two things, the chamber orchestra with this hip hop ensemble? And then yeah, as you know, we planned to do something in the near future, and then the sky fell, and COVID-19 happened, and everything else got shut down for a while. But since then, Indianapolis Jazz Foundation is putting together 3 commissions. Commission works, and we may possibly do it virtually, and maybe a hybrid of the two. If it comes to September where things are better, but if not, we'll do it virtually. And one of the things that bands that is doing the commission is Native Son, and it's going to entail hopefully, and we're planning to have the ICO members of the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra join us for that performance. So we're planning, writing arrangements, and trying to figure things out and figuring out grant money for it and the whole 9. And it's actually something that is brilliant. I think it addresses like the Black Lives Matter movement of that has taken a resurgence since all the activities and the death of George Floyd. And Native Son is calling the work "Legalize Being Black." So I think they have a strong message. It's very powerful and very much needed. I think it something that is going to be a great piece of art to reflect upon what's happening in our time right now.
And I, was particularly interested when we're talking about these arrangements, and you're going to have a huge part in making these arrangements too. So I have no doubt in my mind that the musicians of the ICO will have plenty to contribute to this project, and I look forward to working with you as this continues to evolve. So tonight we're going to talk about your role in Peacemakers, which was really fascinating because you played the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. movement with Dan Tepfer, who we just had on. But then you also came out during the Nelson Mandela choral finale. And I believe that was just, now you were, which is so natural for you, just completely improvising on top of this, everything that was notated for the orchestra and chorus that we had. And it was such an incredible contribution on top of what James had already written. And it's one of the most touching moments for me in the piece was that Nelson Mandela movement. I thought it was just so powerful. But your role here as a featured soloist with Dan Tepfer and MLK, maybe you can set this segment up for us if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, sure. So the MLK suite was, I was so excited to play, and I actually had the privilege and to actually discuss and perform with James Aikman before I actually got to perform a piece with Dan Tepfer. So I was actually, he gave me a lot of insight into what the concept was. Of course, I understood it was, about MLK, and it was actually through Compose, so everything was written out. But he said, I want you to take liberties. He gave me sections of the piece, like improvise here, like whole big sections that he had worked and written all this beautiful music. He's like, you just play whatever you want on this section. I was like, are you sure? Because you wrote all this stuff, so you sure you want to play? But he said, yeah. He goes, I want you to do your thing. And I thought it was, that was really something that was, I thought it was great of him to do, because to allow this piece to incorporate a lot of jazz elements, and jazz being rooted in the Black community, and not only being a foremost American contribution to the world culture, but also a music that kind of reflects the expression of socially unjust experiences of Black men and women in America. So I thought it was just fitting that he says, well, let me add these elements of jazz to this classical work. And it really came out something that was great. I thought it was, it added it enhanced the piece, I thought. And I'm not saying that because I thought I played great improvising, because I don't know on the performance, I don't know. And the sound check, I think actually my performance is a little bit better than it was in the actual performance. Matter of fact, it was funny because I think everybody thought it was just written out. So on the sound check, I think there was a section where I was playing like a 16 bars worth of 30-second notes. And then one of the second violinists is like, "Man, you're a master reader." And I was like, "Yeah, I do what I can."
The performance was brilliant, Rob. I'm looking forward to revisiting now. If you have any questions for Rob Dixon, please send them through our feed, and we'll come back with Rob to wrap this up. But here's the MLK movement, Rob Dixon, Dan Tepfer. You're going to love it.
Martin Luther King Jr., on the occasion of being the youngest recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, said, "Sooner or later, all the people of the world will have to discover a way to live together in peace, and thereby transform this pending cosmic elegy into a creative psalm of brotherhood. If this is to be achieved, man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love."
Some time ago, my brother and I were driving one evening. He was driving the car, and for some reason the drivers were very discourteous that night. They didn't dim their lights. Hardly any driver that passed by dimmed his lights. And I remember very vividly my brother A.D. looked over and in a tone of anger said, "I know what I'm going to do. The next car that comes along here and refuses to dim the lights, I'm going to fail to dim mine and pour them on in all of their power." And I looked at him right quick and said, "Oh no, don't do that. There'd be too much light on this highway, and it will end up in mutual destruction for all. Somebody got to have some sense on this highway. Somebody must have sense enough to dim the lights. And that is the trouble, isn't it?" Men must see that force begets force, hate begets hate, toughness begets toughness, and it is all a descending spiral, ultimately ending in destruction for all and everybody. Somebody must have sense enough and morality enough to cut off the chain of hate and the chain of evil in the universe. And you do that by love.
Rob, it was great to revisit this really powerful piece with you tonight. Some great comments here on our thread. Beautiful soprano tone, wonderful composition, beautiful melodic line. It is always such a pleasure to work with you and collaborate with you. I look forward to future collaborations between you and the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra. I wish you all the very best here, and I hope we can sit down for coffee soon and catch up. But thanks for joining us tonight, Rob. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Matthew. Thanks for having me. You guys at the ICO are doing great things. I can't wait for our next collaboration.
We appreciate that. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Thank you.